Okay, thank you. So we're back online again. Thank you for everyone's patience on this. So as a result of the offline conversations we've had, there have been some further changes to the amended recommendations. So I'll ask the mover if she is happy with those changes.
Yes.
Thank you. So now we will go into debate for the recommendations that are on the screen. Right of introduction, Councillor Warwick.
You don't have to vote on it. Oh, true, because we moved and set this as an amendment. Yeah, true. Nothing's been moved or seconded, so there's no amendments. These are just what you're moving. No, I'm moving the
They
original
did.
motion.
They did.
Yeah. And Simon seconded it, so. Yeah. So I'm just wondering whether we need to be.
Christian, just the mic at the end is on. Thanks, mate. Oh, it's off.
Right. Thank you. Look, I'm just wondering whether we need to be more specific around what we mean by further work. That's a little bit open-ended.
So the amendment needs to be moved before we debate it now. Yeah, so it's been moved and seconded. No, you don't. We're now debating the amendment. Yeah, okay.
Well, are we? Well, I don't know. Okay.
So as I said, we are debating both the two recommendations on the screen.
Well, in that case, I'll just like to make that same point again then, if we're debating it, that I think saying that we request further work is rather open-ended, and I think if there's something specific we want to see in there, we need to spell that out.
So do you have any ideas on that type of option?
No,
or
I think whoever's moving, the mover of the amendment needs to perhaps tighten up on that. That's all.
Okay, so we'll move on to Councillor. Our Mayor.
Yeah, so I think that the amendment that's been made is really positive because it expresses. Actually, I'm not clear what the original motion is and what the amendment is, but I believe that the amendment is B, which is actually a separate motion. But I think it's not up to this committee as a subcommittee and advisory committee of council to identify particular work streams which have a cost implication. It's up to us to provide a strategic vision and an overarching goal that we want to see achieved. And I think that B, as we see it up there, does that perfectly adequately. We've heard what the community said. The staff have heard what the community has said. We need to work out what that means, what work streams are going to be appropriate and feasible, and how we're going to cost those through our long-term plan and our budgets. So that to me, at this stage, that to me is perfectly reasonable for the stage we're at in this conversation.
Councillor Warwick.
Well, the reason I've put up the amendment is because I think the amount of money that is reflected here, it doesn't reflect the importance of our tracks and trails network, the potential that we have at our fingertips, because as a council we have no assets like ports or airports or anything to make money, but we're now sitting on an asset that is going to be able to make us money, bring income, investment, tourism, business, recreation and health for our own people, and it just seems that this is very undervalued because I don't see, as a member of the CWB committee for 7 years, I know we don't own all the assets, but there's not really now a distinction between our CWB network, say the expressway track, and all of the things that come off it or it links to, our tracks and trails. And so it kind of all rolls into one, which is pretty hard to manage for you guys. But even then, the money that has been put aside is pretty minimal for such an amazing asset that, you know, is tied into our emissions reductions, is tied into our economic development, is tied into our health and wellbeing, and has the potential to see the district as an ecotourism hotspot. Yeah, I just think it needs to be really clear how important our tracks, trails and CWB network is to this district in the future. And, you know, Mike asked about use. We you know, before the long-term plan comes along, we need to get some work done on what it is that it is giving us. You know, we need some statistics and stuff, and staff are pretty stretched already, so I don't know how we manage that. But Michael asked about use. In the first month of the PP2O being open, there were 5,000 users, cyclists, walkers, horse riders, people with mobility, whatever, 5,000 users. We've got summer coming up, and I really don't think we can wait till the long-term plan to start rolling this in, and I don't know how we do that, but the long-term plan is 6 months away, and we've got to be hitting the ground for the long-term plan with some real robust strategies going forward for our network. That's my...
Councillor Coe.
Yeah, look, I know I've already spoken on this, but I just think we need to not pussyfoot around with this, and I would say that this. Sorry.
Point of order.
What do I do?
You only speak once to the amendment.
We're in debate, thank you. I actually am going to, I see that no one else is wishing to speak. I'm actually going to add a few comments or my thoughts. I agree with the sentiment in this this change to the recommendations. Mike, and I would like to say that I am not sure that the time between now and our soft meeting, which is on the 16th, is time enough in which we staff can prepare the extra work that is being requested, and whether or not we need to look at extending that time frame. Just hold on a minute, please.
No. Can you just, would you, I would like permission to speak, because I think you're presupposing what I'm going to say.
I will allow that, Councillor Coe. Actually, I haven't finished speaking yet. Sorry. So I suppose that at some point this will come to the vote. So I think we have to consider really carefully whether or not there is enough time between now and the 16th for staff to prepare the information that we're seeking. Councillor Coe.
I would just like to suggest that we alert the Strategy, Operations and Finance Committee that this committee feels there is insufficient resource allocated to the recreational tracks and trails, and we would like to see a paper come forward that has additional resourcing built into it. Something, be a little bit more specific than just saying further work needs to be done.
Mr Jefferson will speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, councillors and community board members. Look, there's obviously a real passion in here. My recommendation with the wording in B is sufficient, and staff have listened to the passion around the table and will pick up within the current capacity and the priorities that you will start to wrestle with this afternoon in the LTP, and progress and bring some further work as they're able. That would be my recommendation to the subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr Jefferson. So now there are no more questions. I will put these two recommendations to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Yep, aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you again, Gareth and Mike, for your presentation and the work in behind this, and also to Claire. So now,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you. Now we'll move on to item 7.3, which is Otaraua Park. After this update, we will have a short break. So we have got our two men back on the job again. Thank you.
Look, Madam Chair, we'll take this report as read. We think it pretty much speaks for itself. We are focusing on looking after our existing infrastructure now, as you've heard through all of our asset management plans, rather than building new assets. So rather than run through the presentation, we thought that the information is in front of you, and we're just happy to take questions.
Do we have any questions? Kim.
Kia ora. Yeah, it is pretty straightforward, but my question is around, so we've got budget there of 6 million and it's gone out to 7.5. So I don't want a detailed explanation why it's gone out, because that's huge. But I want to speak more to the perception in the public that anything built by council is double the price. So when council builds something, it appears to be more costly than if someone private owns it. And I'm not championing privatisation at all, because I know that underlying these costs comes a lot of legislative requirements. There's a lot of going back and forth to the community. What I would like to see, and I wonder if it's available and you're able to share it with us, is actually the cost breakdown between actually this is the cost of the materials, this is the cost of the labour, and then the cost of all the other stuff, consultation, going through, sitting in these councils, so that people can get an idea of where the cost blowouts actually are, because that's huge. Tūruhi, again, budget blowout, and we always just get that kind of one-line item where we don't actually get to see why it's blowing out. I mean, I know a lot of it's costs, and I know prices have risen, but why is it that the perception is that when council builds something or owns something, it costs more? What are those other costs that we're not able to see? So I'm just wondering if that's available.
I think there's there's a lot to that, Kim, but I think that there are some systemic issues. When we do a long-term plan, often the costing we come up with can be 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 years before we actually come to build something. So generally speaking, what we put in the long-term plan tends to have a low level of confidence. But then what tends to happen, it's almost a cultural thing across local government, is it becomes the number. It becomes kind of written in stone, when actually it is only a best guess estimate, sometimes 3-4 years before time we actually go to procure. In this case, and I think some of the issues we're having at the moment, the issues around what happened through COVID are well, the cost escalation through COVID are well traversed. And I think you're seeing that in Wellington and Christchurch at the moment with their construction programs. No construction sector entities are taking any risk at all. All risk is going back to the principles of the contract. So for Wellington, it's the town hall and the library, where there's issues with underground, with geotechnical. In Christchurch, it's the indoor sports stadium, some salutary lessons for us there, and the actual stadium itself, that almost double the price. So I think I don't think it's just us, and happy to provide you with some more detail, but I think there's some systemic issues, there are some specific issues, and all of those kind of come together in a confluence to give us what we have in front of us right now. But happy to provide more detail, but I don't think it's just us. I think there's a systemic and cultural thing with local government in terms of how we budget, and we tend to budget low, but optimistic, and when the actual prices come in, they tend to be high. It's called the stadium business case, right, where you overstate the benefits and understate the costs. It tends to be a cultural thing that we have, and not necessarily just us, but across the country in terms of how we think positively about the benefits of things.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick.
Is the pavilion, which is here, is that going to tie into the indoor sports and recreational centre that people have been desiring within our visioning work? And if it is that actually where people want it? Are we putting money into a project in a place where people might
No.
not?
So what we're saying in this report, Councillor, is that we don't think this should go ahead. So the short answer to your question is no.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mike and Gareth. Look, one of the questions I raised to you in email, which I think is probably interesting observation, is the not only budgetary costs should we be taking into account with our projects, but also our emission costs. How, because one of the next important items of today are going to be our emission targets. So how much is it going to cost us emission-wise to actually build? And if we don't have appropriate public transport to these venues, how much is the emissions going to cost in actual ongoing travel for everyone? So I think we need to probably take into both monetary and emission costs into all of our projects so that we can actually measure and then target for 2040 or 2050 or whatever we wish to reduce our emissions to.
Given what we're recommending today, we don't propose to do any more detailed carbon modelling around either the construction nor the ongoing use of the facility. However, you're quite right that for everything that we build or don't build, we should be looking at the cost of carbon as well as the economic cost. And it's our intention to do exactly that. And also the opportunity to do things like solar and other mitigation whenever we do anything significant with our construction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fully endorse what you're putting this on hold with regards to Otaraua Park. I think it needs a review and a relook at. A question I had was, you talk about stakeholders. Is there a working group as such? I've in the past talked to maybe having community board or even council representation if there's a working group around Otaraua Park. If you could just, if there is, again, just flagging, it'd be great to be a part of that. With regard to stage one, there's a toilets and toilet block being constructed. Being constructed? Is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's no facilities at all going in.
No.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I thought there was some relationship going on with the soccer club or something along that sort of line with regards to toilets and a club room for them down there. Is that all on hold?
All on hold, and we've discussed this with the football club.
Right. Okay. So sorry, just for clarity again, Kapiti Cycling, it's all that work on hold as well.
Yes.
Have there been there's been quite substantial talks with that particular group with regards to things down there. How are they? What's there been a response to?
So I think we said in the
Yes, you
advice.
did. Yeah. So I think that's been covered. Councillor Halliday.
Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't read that in there. Okay, no, that's me for questions. Actually, just one more. So, what was stage one? Was it just the parks themselves?
I think maybe we can take that offline, Councillor Halliday.
No troubles at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. So in relation to putting this work on hold, I just want to seek clarity on the money that's actually already in the long-term budget. Is that going to be reallocated to other projects, or is it going to stay with this project for when it is considered to start it again, if that is what's going to happen, what could happen?
So again, Councillor, that Madam Chair, beg your pardon. What we'll see there is just a reduction in our level of debt rather than the money being reallocated anywhere else.
Thank you very much. So there's no more questions. So if we move on to page 31, we have two recommendations here. The first one is to note the briefing around challenges with the development of Otaraua Park, and endorses the proposal to place development on hold for the time being. Actually, I have, before we go, put it to the vote. So is this going to any other council meeting for, what is the process from here in relation to these, particularly B?
Yeah, it will have to, given your terms of reference, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so given the two recommendations before us, can I have a mover for those, please? Councillor Warwick, seconder, Councillor Hanford. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Yep.
Those against?
Ms May Copes.
Yes, thank you, Glenn. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. So now we'll have a 10-minute break. Thank you.